Hey everybody, I'm JJ Johnson from Reality Survival, and I am over here today on Prepared Mind 101 to talk with you a little bit about some of the stuff that I used to teach as a SEER instructor for the United States Air Force. And that is what things you should consider when you're packing up a survival kit. And there are essentially 5 basic needs that you need to address anytime that you're putting together any kind of survival kit or anything like that. And we're going to cover those 5 things today. So stick with me and we'll get going. Okay guys, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what exactly a survival kit is. It's really a very broad term that can be used to apply to a lot of different things. There's a lot of different names out there for survival kits, and it could be anything from something as small as an Altoids tin, to something that is as big and comprehensive as, a bug out bag or something like that. So all it really is, an assembly of gear that you've put together to be able to help you meet your needs when you're out in the wilderness in case something should go wrong and you have to stay out there longer than you were intending or something along those lines. So that's kind of the context for what I'm going to be talking about today. These are going to be general characteristics that you could apply to any kit, from something as small as this to as big as a bug out bag or something along those lines. Okay guys, so as we go through these items, remember this is not a list of what things you should have with you in your gear. This is talking about all the things that you should consider before packing up your personal survival kit, no matter what size it is or anything like that. These are just the considerations, the 5 considerations that you should think about when packing that kit up. Okay, so the first consideration is medical. The reason that I put this as the first consideration is because, statistically speaking, most wilderness survival type situations are a result of some sort of injury or, something along those lines. You got hurt, you couldn't make it out on time, something like that. That is a very frequent cause, and injuries can also be something that could lead to a very life-threatening situation very quick. So you should always think about first aid and medical first. Now, whether that be some sort of prepackaged survival kit like this, or excuse me, prepackaged first aid kit like this from Adventure Medical Kits, or perhaps it's a multi-use item, with like a shamog or something like that, where you feel confident that you can make a pressure bandage, or cut strips of this up into bandages or something like that, or maybe it's some of these old field bandages. Whatever the case may be, you really, it could be as small as a few band-aids in an Altoids 10 survival kit. It really just depends on what kit you're working with, what the threat level is, what the environment is that you're going to. So you're going to have to customize that for you. But medical should be the first thing. Now, personal protection is the next category. Now, personal protection can actually include quite a few things in its subcategories. Now, perhaps some of the first things that you guys are thinking about might be personal protection as far as a firearm or something along those lines. And you would be correct, that would be included in this category. Having a firearm, depending on the environment that you're going to or whatever, could be critically important. Maybe you're comfortable with just having, a fixed blade knife, or perhaps an EDC folder, or maybe even some pepper spray or something along those lines. It really is just going to depend, again, on your environment and what you need. In your traditional wilderness survival type situation, you're really going to be talking about personal protection as far as from the elements and from the weather. So you want to make sure that you might have some sort of material like an emergency tarp to be able to make a shelter, or perhaps just a cheap little survival blanket, something along those lines. Could be one of these SOL ones, or maybe it's just a nice piece of Tyvek that you picked up off of a construction site or something along those lines. All these things are going to work good for getting you out of the weather. Obviously, there are tents that you could use. There are larger, purpose-built shelters and tarps and those kind of things. the main point is if you get a big downpour, if you get a heavy snow or something like that, you need to be able to cover yourself up and stay out of those elements. Now, also in the personal protection category is going to be your clothing. Your clothing is your first line of defense, and that could be just having, an extra set of long underwear if it was a cold environment or something like that. Maybe it is just having an emergency poncho, a very small emergency poncho that can fit in, to your kit, depending on what size it may be. Or perhaps it's a full rain suit. It really just depends. If you're in a really cold environment, maybe you want an extra down jacket or something like that can be compacted down into a real small size. So that extra layer of clothing and your outer layers of clothing are also a consideration for personal protection. The next part is fire, and that includes everything from having a source to light fire or several sources to light fire, to maybe having some tinder or something along those lines, or even the cutting tools that you need, like a saw or something like that, or a fixed blade knife or an axe or a hatchet, something along those lines, to be able to gather firewood, break it up, and be able to maintain that fire for a long period, when you need it during that bad weather, or for cooking, or whatever the case may be. Again, personal protection is a broad category, but it's an important one, and so you got to consider that when you're packing up those kits. Okay, everybody, sustenance is the next category, and sustenance basically entails food and water. Water can be pretty easy to find in a lot of places, but unfortunately it's not safe to drink in many cases. So, part of the things that you might want to consider in the water category could be something as simple as having a bottle of water purification tablets thrown in your kit, or maybe even a few of them wrapped up individually. MicroPure has got some, individual packages that you can throw in, like in small survival kits. Or perhaps it's going to be something that's a little bit bigger, like a survival straw, something along those lines, or maybe even like a Katadyn hiker, or a bigger pumped style water filter. Or if you're going to try to be a little bit more basic than that, maybe you're just going to have a stainless steel water bottle or a canteen or something like that that you can boil water in, which is one of the best ways to make sure that your water is purified. It might also be just having a water bladder, in your backpack that you can add the water tablets or the water purification tablets to. So it really just depends. The main thing is look at your environment, try to figure out where you think you're going to be able to get your water from, what source it's coming from, and all that kind of stuff, and then figure out what is going to be the best way to address that need for you. Now the next part of it is food, and when we're talking about food, we can be talking about anything from, just packing some food in the kit, something that will store for a while, something that's got high energy, that's going to, help you out in, whatever your situation is. Cliff bars are good, power bars are good, those kinds of, energy foods are good to throw in there. It could also be, if you're looking at like a bug out bag or something like that, maybe you're going to use, some Mountain House dehydrated food or freeze-dried food, the Wise Foods. There's a lot of different brands out there that you could use, and that's going to work out pretty good for you too. Or perhaps you're going to look at, using MREs or something of that nature. It really just depends. Now, for the more long-term type issues, then you probably want to start thinking about hunting and trapping. Maybe you want to have a slingshot or something like that to be able to hunt game. Perhaps you want to try to trap it, so you need some wire so that you can build a simple loop snare or something like that. Some people like to use rat traps or mouse traps as potential trapping devices for small games and rodents and those kinds of things. And then you could also look as far out, if you were thinking you're going to go out and never come back, then maybe you want to even bring some seeds, some non-hybrid type seeds that you can reharvest the seeds from, over and over, year after year. Again, it really just depends on what you're trying to address, but sustenance is an important one, because without food or water, you're going to start to go downhill really fast, and that's where you're going to have problems. Okay, so the next consideration is going to be communication. Now, you could say that this is signaling and communication. If you're trying to communicate with rescue forces, that is signaling. Or perhaps you're maybe just going to do something as simple as call for help on a cell phone. It depends on where you're at, what kind of signal you have, and all that kind of stuff. Coincidentally, a cell phone could also be used as a signal mirror, which is also a great communication device for effecting your own rescue. Now, here we have several different things laid out. These are all just, representative examples. Again, it's going to depend on where you're at, what you're doing. You could, signal with just a, basic flashlight, EDC flashlight or something along those lines, especially at nighttime. One of the best signals out there is just to have a huge raging fire. So again, this is kind of going back to the multi-use aspect of some of these items. Being able to build a fire is a definite advantage for affecting your rescue and communicating with rescue forces, if that's the kind of environment that you're in. Just a cheapo emergency blanket does a pretty good job of making a ground to air signal and that kind of thing. Here's a different type of headlamp. This is a Petzl Strikes. I'll be doing a review on it over on my channel here pretty soon. Maybe it's going to be something as simple as a buzzsaw signal where you tie a glow stick to a piece of 3 or 4 foot 550 cord and twirl it around at night. Or it could be something a little bit more complex like a power flare. This is a pretty cool little system. It looks like a little hockey puck and it has LEDs all the way around it, and it kind of shines in different patterns and things like that. It could be used in an urban environment in case you crashed your car, or it could be used in a rural environment to help signal rescue as well. And there we go. I think it's got like 10 different modes in that thing. Then, maybe you're going to use something like this spot GPS transponder or GPS messenger, where you can actually send a message to your loved ones to let them know that you're okay, or let them know perhaps that you're going to be a little bit late. You can customize it. Or you can send a message to a rescue center and let them know that, hey, I need serious help right now. I think these are a great tool for pretty much anybody to have who spends time out in a wilderness environment, especially if you're alone or in a pretty rural backcountry area, because these will work pretty much all over the United States and in many parts of the world. So anyhow, this is just again some of the basic considerations for communication and signaling, and you really can modify that however you need to for your situation. Okay guys, so the next category is navigation, and the items within the navigation are pretty basic. You're talking about your basic map and compass. A good topographical map of the area that you're going to be in is really important. If you can find one with a scale of 1 to 24,000, that would be great. You can order those from the U.S. Geological Service. But if it has to be just a simple, map like this, like a park map or something along those lines, then that's fine too. There are also some higher scale ones, such as this one, that are like 1 to 62,000 or something like that. Now, you don't get as much detail in these, but they're still going to be very helpful for you if you turned up, where you lost or something along those lines. Now, a lot of people will use GPSs, and there's nothing wrong with GPSs. Especially the ones that you can load in topographical maps and those kind of things. But you do need to understand that GPSs have their limitations, and there are environmental conditions that can cause a GPS to not be accurate or not work at all, such as heavy cloud cover and fog, or even terrain conditions. If you're in really rough terrain with a lot of vegetation and that kind of thing around you or over you, then that can also affect the GPS from being able to work as well. And of course, they take batteries, so if you really, really need it, it's probably going to fail on you. So also, another consideration is a cell phone. A lot of people will take cell phones with them, and they'll use the GPS that's built into their phone. One thing to consider, and that some folks may not be aware of, is that your GPS will not actually work without a cellular signal. So if you're out of cell range, don't count on the GPS in the phone to be able to guide you back to wherever you're going. So anyhow, guys, that is navigation. I think the most important thing about the navigation category or characteristic is really that you have the personal training and the understanding to be able to use the map to affect your own rescue and walk out of the situation, if you can. Hopefully, you're not injured to the point where you can't do that, but being able to just use these couple of simple devices and help yourself and be self-reliant is really the most important thing about this category. Okay, everybody, so that has been a look at the 5 basic needs that I used to teach at the United States Air Force Survival School when I was a SEER instructor up there. We would teach this to all the aircrew members who come through, and it would be for them to tailor their survival kits, whether it be something as small as an Altoids 10 survival kit, to an actual backpack or day bag on a big heavy aircraft or something along those lines. Now, if you address all these areas, the medical, the personal protection, the sustenance, the communication, and the navigation, then I think you'll find that you're going to have a pretty comprehensive kit. Break it down into each one of those subcategories and really explore that, and I think you'll find that it's going to work out pretty well for you. I'd be curious to know, though, how do you guys go about developing your kits? If you could kind of put what it is you use as a guide and those kind of things down in the comments below, then that would be great. I'd be interested to read that. Maybe I can pick something up from you guys as well. I'd also like to take a second and thank Chris for allowing me to be over here on Prepared Mind 101. I definitely appreciate it, and I look forward to him being over on my channel as well. Now, if you guys haven't subscribed to my channel, then definitely come over and take a look. I'm sure the link will be down below as well. I try to upload at least 3 new videos per week. I try to kind of break it up a little bit. I do 1 wilderness survival, 1 prepping, and then 1 gear review of some sort or another. So we try to kind of, keep it so that it's interesting and changes up and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, guys, I definitely appreciate it when you click the thumbs up button, when you share it with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. And don't forget to live the 6 Ps. Prior preparation prevents poor performance. Stay safe, guys.